Unlocking the Rosary's Power, History of the Ancient Spiritual Weapon and its Papal Endorsements. The Rosary is more than a prayer. It is an ancient meditative tool. Science proves the Rosary's rhythm optimizes heart health. Discover the true spiritual and physical benefits of the Rosary. The miraculous chain and the promise of benefit. The Rosary, a humble chain of beads centered on a cross, is arguably the most recognizable and enduring devotional tool in all of Christianity. It is a spiritual compass, a portable library of contemplation, and a disciplined path to meditative focus. More than a simple sequence of prayers, the Rosary is a highly structured form of spiritual exercise, traditionally known as the Psalter of the Virgin Mary, or literally, the Rose Garden, Rosarium. The name itself invokes the image of offering a spiritual bouquet of prayers to the divine. For centuries, the Rosary has been upheld by the Catholic Church as a powerful weapon against spiritual adversity and a privileged means of grace. Its physical structure, the sequence of the cross, the larger beads and the decades of smaller beads, acts as a tactile roadmap, grounding the mind and body during periods of intense spiritual focus. This structure facilitates a journey through the pivotal moments in the lives of Jesus Christ and Mary, transforming mere repetition into deep Christ-centered contemplation. However, in the modern era, the significance of the Rosary extends beyond theological claims. The rhythmic, repetitive nature of the prayer, combined with the deliberate meditative focus on the mysteries, has drawn the attention of researchers in psychology and physiology. These studies suggest that the Rosary possesses measurable, proven benefits on human health and mental well-being, often comparable to secular practices of mindfulness and meditative breathing. The claims are profound that this simple ancient devotion can reliably reduce stress, enhance focus, and even optimize cardiac health through its unique rhythm. To appreciate the full scope of this spiritual instrument, we must first understand its long, evolving history, a history that traces the practice of repetitive prayer from the earliest monastic cells to the hands of the faithful worldwide. The Rosary is not an artifact frozen in time, but the culmination of centuries of human yearning for a tangible, portable, and accessible path to holiness. Its enduring power lies in its genius for simplification, taking complex theological narratives and weaving them into an easily memorized pattern of touch and word. This introductory lens sets the stage for our detailed exploration of how the Rosary became the powerful spiritual tool we recognize today. Deep roots, from 50 Psalms to the prayer bead. The practice of using knots, stones, or beads to count and structure prayer predates the formal Rosary by many centuries and spans numerous faiths. This universal need for a tactile counter arose from a practical necessity, maintaining consistency and focus during repeated prayers or invocations. In early Christianity, particularly within the monastic communities, the need to structure prayer was paramount. Monks were required to recite the 50 Psalms of David, the complete Psalter, as part of their daily routine, a demanding act of memory and devotion. As monasticism expanded, lay brothers and common parishioners who were largely illiterate and could not memorize the voluminous Psalter sought an equivalent devotional practice. Thus emerged the concept of the poor man's Psalter. Instead of reciting 150 psalms, they would substitute the simpler and more universally known Our Father Pater Noster, reciting it 150 times. To keep an accurate count, these early faithful began to use strings of knots, or eventually small drilled wooden beads, often called paternoster beads. This was a democratization of deep prayer, making the structured devotion previously reserved for learned monastics accessible to the agrarian populace. As devotion to the Virgin Mary grew in the early Middle Ages, around the 11th and 12th centuries, the Hail Mary Ave Maria began to replace or complement the Our Father as the primary repetitive prayer in these count sequences. Early forms of the Marian Psalter involved reciting the Hail Mary 50 times, 100 times, or even the full 50 times, mirroring the 150 Psalms. However, this early practice still lacked the structured meditative component that defines the modern rosary. It was a quantitative devotion, a focus on the number of prayers offered, rather than a qualitative devotion focused on deep Christological contemplation. The stage was now set for the intervention of a key historical figure who would synthesize these counting methods with specific theological meditation, transforming a simple prayer count into the profound spiritual exercise known as the Rosary. The historical catalyst, Saint Dominic and the formalization. The traditional foundational narrative of the Rosary points directly to the 13th century figure of Saint Dominic de Guzman, the founder of the Dominican order of preachers. This period was marked by significant upheaval and the spread of theological dissent, most notably the Albigensian heresy, or Catharism, in southern France, which rejected the goodness of the material world and denied many core Catholic doctrines. Saint Dominic, dedicated to preaching and combating this heresy, found his rigorous intellectual arguments failing to penetrate the popular imagination. According to tradition, in 1214, Saint Dominic received a direct heavenly mandate during a period of intense prayer. The Blessed Virgin Mary appeared to him and presented the Rosary, instructing him to use this simple, powerful tool as the most effective means of evangelization. Mary revealed that the Rosary was a theological weapon, a concise summary of the gospel message that the simple, uneducated populace could grasp and internalize through repetitive recitation. This tradition elevated the Rosary from a local devotional practice to a divinely ordained spiritual instrument. The genius of Dominic's subsequent systematization was the combination of the physical counting beads with the mysteries, initially only 3 sets. By instructing the faithful to recite a decade, 10 Hail Marys, while meditating on a specific event in the life of Christ, Dominic transformed the rote repetition of the Hail Mary into a contemplative journey through the core narratives of salvation history. The Rosary became a portable, accessible theology. This portable structure could be carried into any village, recited by any person, and required no literacy, providing a powerful, stabilizing devotional focus amidst doctrinal confusion. The Rosary became known as the spiritual weapon of the Dominicans, successfully mobilizing the faithful through the power of contemplative prayer and cementing St. Dominic's place as the historical figure most responsible for the Rosary's definitive form and popular worldwide spread. The physical structure, the anatomy of the Rosary. The physical object of the Rosary is a masterpiece of symbolic and functional design. It is not a decorative item, but a highly specialized prayer machine, where every component serves a precise spiritual and practical purpose, facilitating the disciplined journey through the mysteries. A standard modern rosary consists of 59 beads arranged in 2 distinct sections, the introductory segment and the main loop. The Rosary begins with the crucifix, which is the foundational element, marking the beginning of the prayer and the central doctrine of Christianity, the sacrifice of Christ. The act of touching and kissing the crucifix grounds the prayer in the reality of the Incarnation and the Passion. Following the crucifix is a short chain segment containing 5 beads, a single large bead, 3 small beads, and a final large bead leading to the centerpiece. This segment is dedicated to the initial prayers, the Apostles' Creed, while holding the crucifix. the Our Father on the first large bead, the three Hail Marys on the small beads, traditionally offered for the virtues of faith, hope, and charity, and the Glory Be on the final large bead. The primary function of the Rosary lies in the main loop, which is divided into 5 sections known as decades. Each decade consists of 1 large bead, followed by 10 small beads. The large beads serve as navigational tools, marking the conclusion of one mystery's contemplation and the beginning of the next, and are where the Our Father is recited. The 10 small beads are the core, counting the 10 Hail Marys while the mind remains focused on the designated mystery. The centerpiece, or medallion, often depicting the Virgin Mary, serves as the spiritual hub, anchoring the prayer sequence and marking the transition between the introductory segment and the contemplative loop. This physical, tactile division ensures that the prayer remains disciplined, preventing the mind from wandering while engaging the body in the steady, rhythmic counting that is essential to the Rosary's meditative power. The mechanics of prayer, the rhythmic sequence. Understanding the Rosary requires moving beyond its physical structure to grasp its mechanical and rhythmic function as a form of vocal and mental prayer. The discipline is achieved through a precise, established sequence of recitations designed to move the supplicant from initial intention to sustained contemplation. The process begins with the sign of the cross and the recitation of the Apostles' Creed while holding the crucifix. This anchors the prayer in the formal tenets of the Christian faith. The prayer then proceeds through the short introductory segment, the 5 B's, establishing the rhythm with the first, Our Father, 3 Hail Marys, and the Glory Be. The true meditative work begins with the first decade. Before reciting any prayers, the supplicant announces the mystery they will contemplate, e.g., the Annunciation, the first joyful mystery. This mental declaration sets the contemplative anchor. Then, holding the large bead, the Our Father is recited, serving as the pivot point. Following this, the 10 Hail Marys are recited on the small beads. This is the rhythmic heart of the devotion. The mind is tasked with holding the image of the mystery, e.g. the angel Gabriel appearing to Mary, while the lips and fingers engage in the steady, repetitive rhythm of the Hail Marys. The repetition functions as a kind of spiritual mantra, consuming the part of the brain that would otherwise be distracted, freeing the deepest levels of the mind to visualize and ponder the theological scene. This process is concluded with the Glory Be and, optionally, the Fatima prayer, marking the end of the decade and the full meditation on that specific mystery. The sequence then repeats 4 more times, cycling through 5 distinct mysteries and completing the full Rosary of 5 decades. The mechanics, therefore, are designed to create a state of active, disciplined contemplation, using the voice and the hands to guide the heart through the gospel story. The mysteries, the contemplative core of the Rosary. The true genius of the Rosary does not lie in the beads or the prayers themselves, but in the mysteries of contemplation. These mysteries transform the rote recitation of the Hail Mary into a profound, structured meditation on the life, death, and resurrection of Jesus Christ. The Rosary is, fundamentally, a Christ-centered devotion, where the repetitive prayers serve as the anchor to keep the mind fixed on these sacred scenes. Traditionally, the Rosary was composed of 3 sets of mysteries, totaling 50 Hail Marys, paralleling the 150 Psalms, the joyful mysteries focusing on Christ's incarnation and childhood, the sorrowful mysteries focusing on his passion and suffering, and the glorious mysteries focusing on the resurrection and the triumph of the Church. In 2002, Pope John Paul II introduced a 4th set, the luminous mysteries, focusing on Christ's public ministry and teachings, completing the narrative sweep of the Gospel. The process of meditating on the mysteries is the Rosary's mechanism for achieving contemplative prayer. As the individual begins a decade, they announce the mystery, e.g., the agony in the garden, and then, while reciting the 10 Hail Marys, the mind is tasked with remaining fixed on the corresponding theological event. This is where the discipline is most acute. The voice is engaged in the rhythm of the prayer, freeing the heart and imagination to delve into the meaning of the scene, its emotional weight, its theological significance, and its personal relevance. This method ensures that the devotion avoids becoming mere mechanical counting. By cycling through the pivotal moments of the Gospel, the Rosary offers a complete spiritual education, enabling the faithful to internalize the entirety of Christian salvation history, making it a continuous devotional pilgrimage through the life of Christ, guided by the voice of the Virgin Mary. This profound, structured contemplation is the source of the Rosary's most highly praised spiritual efficacy. Spiritual benefits, theological, grace and spiritual combat. From a theological standpoint, the Catholic Church assigns immense spiritual power to the faithful recitation of the Rosary, viewing it not just as a prayer, but as a source of grace, a means of intercession, and a powerful weapon in spiritual combat. The Church teaches that the Rosary's efficacy flows from its meditative core, which brings the supplicant into closer unity with the mind of Christ. The primary benefit is the acquisition of sanctifying grace. By reflecting on the virtues demonstrated in the mysteries, such as humility in the Annunciation or fortitude in the Crucifixion, the prayer is believed to aid the faithful in rooting out sin and growing in personal virtue. Furthermore, the constant invocation of Mary in the Hail Mary is seen as petitioning her powerful intercession. As the Mother of God, Mary is understood to carry the prayers of the faithful directly to Jesus, lending weight and speed to their supplications. Papal documents throughout history have repeatedly affirmed that devotion to the Rosary is a powerful path to holiness and a reliable method for attaining personal peace and salvation. The most dramatic theological claim is the Rosary's role as a spiritual weapon. Countless saints and popes have referred to the Rosary as a sword, an armor or a chain against the forces of evil and temptation. This concept is rooted in the belief that the focus on Christ's redemptive life and Mary's purity repels spiritual attack, providing a tangible tool for the faithful to use in moments of crisis or struggle. This conviction is so strong that the physical rosary beads are often blessed and carried as sacramental objects, providing a constant physical reminder of the spiritual protection invoked through the prayer. Thus, the rosary provides a practical framework for theological beliefs. It is a conduit for divine favor and a spiritual shield against the chaos of the temporal world. Documented benefits, scientific, rhythm and wellness. While the theological claims are rooted in faith, the rhythmic structure of the Rosary has also yielded remarkable and measurable results in the field of cardiopulmonary and meditative science, providing a documented basis for its perceived efficacy. This is where the ancient practice meets modern physiological understanding. Several prominent medical studies, particularly those conducted on meditative breathing, have focused on the optimal breathing rate required to maximize heart rate variability, HRV, the healthy variation in time between heartbeats. High HRV is strongly correlated with a healthy parasympathetic nervous system, which governs the body's rest and digest function, leading to reduced stress, improved mental focus, and cardiovascular health. Researchers discovered that the natural, unhurried rhythm of reciting the Rosary, when performed sincerely, encourages a breathing rate of approximately 6 respirations per minute. This rate is found to be nearly identical to the precise breathing frequency required for the body to achieve maximum HRV and induce the deep relaxation response. The rhythm of the prayer acts as a natural biofeedback mechanism. The repetitive sequence of the Hail Marys and the fixed intervals of the Our Father automatically guide the supplicant's breathing into this optimal, resonant frequency, even without conscious effort to control the breath. Furthermore, the engagement of the mind in contemplating the mysteries prevents the common problem of distraction, which often plagues secular mindfulness practices. By providing both a physical rhythm, beads, voice, and a mental focus, the Rosary effectively acts as a highly structured mantra-based meditation. This dual mechanism scientifically validates the profound stress reduction and focus-enhancing claims long associated with the practice, confirming that the spiritual discipline embedded in the Rosary yields tangible, quantifiable physical benefits. Historical significance, popes and the power of the Rosary. The Rosary's importance is not confined to personal devotion. It has profoundly shaped church history and global events, receiving consistent endorsement from the highest levels of the papacy. Historical records testify to the Church's belief that this devotion has literally changed the course of world affairs. The most famous historical validation is the Battle of Lepanto in 1571. Facing the overwhelming naval force of the Ottoman Empire, Pope Pius V called upon all of Europe to pray the Rosary for a miraculous victory. The Christian Holy League, though militarily disadvantaged, achieved a decisive victory, halting the Ottoman expansion into Europe. Pope Pius V attributed this victory directly to the intercession of the Virgin Mary through the recitation of the Rosary, subsequently establishing October as the month of the Holy Rosary. This event cemented the Rosary's status as a spiritual defense for Western civilization. In the modern era, numerous popes have issued encyclicals urging the faithful to pray the Rosary. Pope Leo X wrote 11 encyclicals dedicated solely to the Rosary, championing it as the prayer for all seasons. Most recently, Pope John Paul II dedicated his apostolic letter, Rosarium Virginis Mariae, to the devotion, calling it a compendium of the entire Gospel. He not only promoted its recitation, but formally introduced the luminous mysteries, revitalizing the devotion for the modern age. This continuous, emphatic endorsement from the highest authority in the Church underlines the belief that the Rosary is not an optional accessory, but an essential component of Christian life, validated not only by centuries of tradition, but by its demonstrated capacity to affect historical and spiritual outcomes. Conclusion: tool, meditation, and enduring legacy. The story of the Rosary is a powerful synthesis of history, faith, and human physiology. We have explored its evolution from a rudimentary bead counter into a complex 4-part contemplative journey through the life of Christ. We have seen how the humble string of beads became a formidable spiritual weapon, endorsed by popes and credited with historic military victories. Its enduring legacy lies in its practical accessibility. The Rosary is perhaps the most effective tool devised to address the modern need for mindfulness and focused contemplation within a religious framework. The dual rhythm of the beads and the prayers provides a stable anchor, allowing the mind to engage in theological reflection, while the body settles into a state of physiological rest, a benefit now supported by measurable scientific evidence regarding heart rate and breath optimization. Ultimately, the Rosary stands as a permanent testament to the genius of structured spirituality. It offers a comprehensive, portable, and reproducible method for meditating on the core mysteries of faith. It remains a lifeline for millions, seamlessly integrating the physical, psychological, and spiritual dimensions of the human experience. The Rosary is not merely a devotion of the past, but an increasingly relevant tool for spiritual growth and mental wellness in the chaotic rhythm of the modern world, continuing its mission as the eternal rose garden offered to the divine.